Now let's get into the politics of all of this with Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist and former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Mark McKinnon, former advisor to both George W. Bush and John McCain. He's one of the co-hosts of The Circus on Showtime. Mark, your reaction tonight?
Well, listen, this is Donald Trump's death may come from 1,000 legal cuts ultimately. His superpower has always been that he's untouchable. And this is the federal government now saying, we're coming after you. And this is a situation where once he starts to bleed, and he's going to bleed throughout this process, you can see his support evaporate pretty quickly. As soon as his supporters realize that this is not going to help him win either the nomination or the general election, his support could dissipate, remarkably quickly, given his history of maintaining his solid support. I think this is a different situation. And by the way, I think what's going to be interesting is to see how his Republican opponents react. That's the real political equation. And we've seen already the breadth of the reaction from Vivek Ramaswamy, who's already dedicated himself to a pardon if he's elected president. But we also have Asa Hutchinson, who had a very interesting statement. Hutchinson has said the GOP should clarify that there is no pledge to support a nominee if they are found guilty of espionage or a serious felony. Donald Trump is the target of an ongoing criminal investigation, and he should step aside and put the good of the country above his candidacy. So this is going to be very interesting to watch to see how his competitors in the Republican primary respond.
Basil, what's your reaction to tonight's news?
Well, this is coming from someone who still has their tear-stained jacket from 2016.
You got to take that to the cleaners.
Yes, I will do that. Now I will take it to the cleaners. Listen, when we've talked a lot about accountability, this is moving in that direction. I do think that for so many voters who were concerned that for all of those 1,000 cuts that Mark was talking about, that there was nothing going to penetrate. This is a federal indictment. This is serious business. And there was a Washington Post article, I think it was last week, that talked about and used two words, the breadth and specificity of this case. And that is not something that is easily dismissed because it shows that there were a lot of people involved. There was a lot going on. There was intentionality behind all of this behavior, the motives of which we will, I guess, find out at some point. But that intentionality, that breadth and specificity is what is going to be really hard for Donald Trump to be able to throw away. And it's going to be even harder for a voter to turn away from it as they make their decision about 2024.
Mark, this isn't going to change things for the hardcore MAGA Trump supporter. But what about the RNC? Does this give them an out?
I don't think initially it does. I think that they're going to have to take sort of the posture that most of them are, which is to say it's a political attack. They're going to blame Democrats, even though it's obviously an independent counsel. But they're going to make it a political attack. They're going to adopt the weaponizing government tactic. And defend Trump, whether or not they'll go as far as Ramaswamy or others is unclear at this point. We would hope that they would, if they're truly the party of law and order, that they would wait to see evidence before rendering judgment and wait till trial before offering pardons. There's an interesting element to this, Stephanie, that just occurred to me, which is that before this happened, I thought that there was, if Donald Trump didn't get the nomination, knowing Donald Trump, you could see how he would take out his revenge on, say, Ron DeSantis by simply running as an independent just to win the votes in Florida and deny DeSantis the presidency. I mean, that would be very much in the Donald Trump playbook. This could change that equation. If he thinks that a pardon is part of the equation of whoever gets the nomination, then that could change his strategy about what he does in the general election.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation because we are already getting a whole lot of misinformation from elected officials. For fact's sake, the president was not behind this indictment. Democrats were not behind this indictment. It was a grand jury in the state of Florida. Facts matter.